already. Hey guys, welcome back to part, well, I suppose technically part 2, but part 3, 2 or 3, whatever it may be, of CryEngineering. And what I'm going to go over today is just setting up ships and how you can set them up so you can use them for animation purposes. And I'm going to cover 2 of the 3 methods of doing it. The reason I'm not going to cover the 3rd is because right now with this build of CryEngine 5.4, it's broken, and I'll explain why later on. But there are 2 other methods, and that involves a whole lot of parenting. So what is parenting? Well, I'll kind of go over that briefly. I've got 2 examples here of methods of doing it. So if we see here on the, just gonna, oh, not ideal. Just gonna, alright, so if we see here, I've got 2 gladiuses here. I've got one with all the geometry is stuck in the middle, and there's another where it's actually working as intended. But there is a difference with how these guys are set up. So what you might think normally with the methods of these, and what should normally work but doesn't unfortunately, is if you take, say, this laser here, this laser attachment, and we use what's called the select and link tool, which is this tool here, and then you take that and then drag it onto the body, and then all these hard points will show up. And say for this guy, we want to attach this guy to the weapon mount on the left hand side wing, so that'll be hard point and then underscore gun left wing. And then in the properties here, we just this is a little bit broken as well. You can't actually select the properties. So what you can do here though is copy and then paste a 0, and it will center it nicely on that hard point. Unfortunately, doing it this way, and I'll flash up a video of it now, is that when you exit the engine and load it up again, everything snaps to 0, 0 and 0 of the actual mesh. So you can see here, if I select the body, everything is centered around there. But the way to fix it is as follows. So you just select the parent, the body, and then delete, and then undo, and everything snaps there. Unfortunately, that is not a good way of doing it, because just ignore that, I'll delete that guy. That's not a good way of doing it, because every time you load up the level again, you will have to fix it. This isn't a problem with the engine, it's not really a problem with anything else, unfortunately. So that method isn't very good. But what you can do is take all the positions of all these pieces, and I'll go over how to do this. All these pieces here, and then unparent them, and then all parent them to a entity called a character attach helper. Now this is just a null entity that is used just kind of like as a control piece. So you can see here I've got a Gladius parent, but this is the body. So if I go in here, you can see here there is a character attach entity here beneath the anim object entity. So you can see all the axes coming out of there. And this is centered at 0, 0 and 0 of the Gladius body. And we can see here all the attachments here are as they should, and if we want to, we can select one and animate it as required, which is pretty cool. And there's a 3rd method in which what you do is you use the character tool, and because of the type of geometry that the ships are, they're CGA files, they are animated geometry. You can use these animated geometry as a base skeleton in the characters here. So if I go into characters, spaceships, ships, Aegis, Gladius, we can see I've got an assembled version here. And what you can do is you can actually attach these in the character tool. Now, it's, as far as I'm aware, a problem with this version of CryEngine at the moment is that when you attach the geometry to these ships here, so you can see here I've attached the engines, CryEngine doesn't like you attaching animated geometry onto animated geometry, and it will crash when you load it into the level, which isn't good. So for now, this method is kind of not a good idea. There is a way around it, and I will do that in its own video. But this is a method we're going to ignore right now. So that's kind of the introduction to what we're doing. So we're going to set it up so that we can use. We're gonna set it up so we can just have a ship here that's ready to go with the attachments working properly, and we'll go through the process of that. So we're gonna move on now and build some ships. So what we're gonna need is a few different things. So we're gonna need the first off, we're gonna need an anim object here, and we're gonna need a character attachment helper. Now this is, look, in the create objects panel. This is created under MISC, and then character attach helper here. And we're going to move that to one side for now. And it's recommended that I do recommend that you use anim objects for this, but for the sake of speed, I'm going to use geometry entities. These are legacy entities that are used for so bringing in skin or CDF animated geometry files into the level quickly. They are deprecated though, so you do have to enable them manually. I'll quickly go over how to do that. It's very, very simple. So if you load up the where you have your CryEngine build located, so for me it's Bulkheads Cry5, CryEngine, and here we are. So if you go into the name of your project, so in my case it's Bulkheads, and then there's the entities.xml. If you edit that, open that up, and it'll load up all the different entities that are used in the engine. And we're going to scroll down and find geom entity here, and we'll see that here, and in your XML it will have invisible equals 1. If you just set that to 0, it will enable the geom entity in the window there. So I'm going to close that there, and then what we can do here is start bringing objects in. So what I'm going to do, instead of using a Gladius, because that's going to be very monotonous, it's going to be exactly the same thing again, I'm going to use something small like a Merlin, because plus I like the Merlin. So I'm just going to close this down. So what we'll do is set up this version first of the Gladius. This is the one that everything snaps to 0, and we'll use that as a base to quickly convert it to a version that will not mess up. And I'll show you how to animate a ship as well. So first things first, I'm going to rename the anim object to let's say Merlin body, and we're going to bring in the Merlin geometry now as well. So if we just go into the properties and go to model, and we're going to change that to objects, spaceships, ships, K-rig, Merlin. There's no Archimedes in this build, I'm afraid, because it's a different one. And then we're going to bring that in now, and it will bring in a Merlin. I'm just going to scroll down in the properties and set the LOD ratio to 0 just to disable the LOD switching. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, obviously, from the look of it, is just start attaching all the assets to it. So we'll start from the back and work our way forward. So what we need are the engines, the cockpit, thrusters, weapons, the Gatling gun, and the front thrusters as well. Kruger. Okay, so we'll start from the back and work our way forward. So what we'll do is open up Geometry and then go to the same directory, so objects, spaceships, and first thing we want is the thrusters here. So let's grab it. Just let Merlin body there. I'm just gonna disable those guys too. Just hide them. Okay, and then so we're going to thrusters, and then I'm interested in K-rig, Kruger, Intergalactic, and we'll see we got the thrusters here. So these are CGA files, so if you don't see these, you're probably using the brush entity type. We want to be geom entity or anim object and selecting the geometry manually. Okay, so let's bring in the thrusters. So we've got a retro thruster here, a maneuvering thruster here. Let's have a look here. Another one, and an oval maneuvering thruster, and a other retro thruster. Okay, The other thing we also need is the main engine. Now I can't remember what exactly that engine is, so I'm just going to go look for it and I'll be right back. Okay, so unfortunately, I was just doing some reading. The nozzle geometry for this doesn't work as intended, so I'll be covering that in the next video, how to fix that. But right now what we'll do is just kind of get all these guys attached first. So we'll go from the back to the front. So what we'll do is use the select and link tool. But what I'll quickly do as well is just call this PE52 Merlin. Just make a new layer and put all these guys in the same layer. It just means that we can just work in this out, have it a little bit cleaner. Okay, so what we'll do is take the select and link tool and we'll start with the oval maneuvering thrusters. And to do this, we just simply take the select and link tool and drag from the geometry onto the Merlin body, and we want hard point thruster rear top, and then in the properties we'll just copy the 0 rotation and paste the 0 position. As we can see, it is lined up, and then we'll press Ctrl D on the keyboard and make a copy of it, and then press the unlink button. And another way you can link is by, in the level explorer, just dragging the geometry onto the parent like so. And then same thing again, hardpoint thruster rear left, and then in the position transform here, just 0. And then we repeat that for all the oval thrusters, so that's going to be this one here, and the 4 at the front of the ship. So I'll just go ahead and do this now, and a nice lovely pretty time lapse. Okay, so that's all the circular thrusters in place. So next we'll do the what's it called? The oval thrusters here, which go on the top and the bottom of the ship. Okay, next one is the retro thrusters, which I'm not completely sure where they go. This is going to be interesting for me too. Okay, so these appear to be hidden geometry, so we don't have to worry too much about them. That's okay. That's good. That's quite good, actually. Alright, so we don't really have to worry too much about the retro thrusters then, because they are hidden, which is good. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is the cockpit, and we'll do the weapons as well. So, just go into Geometry, and we'll go to Spaceships, Object Spaceships, Ships, K-Rig, 52 Merlin, and we'll go into, we'll find Interior Cockpit here, which is as shown. Just going to touch on the grid, and then we'll select and link that too. There we are. Alright, and now the dashboard. Alright. And now the pilot seat. Okay, and now we'll do the front Gatling gun. So that is going to be in Spaceships, Weapons, K-Rig, Ballistic Gatling S2. Ooh, what's this thing? Ooh, that looks pretty. So it'll be the same thing here. So we just select and link, and then add that there, and then hardpoint weapon centerman. Paste, paste, and paste, and that puts the Gatling gun in the correct position within the Merlin chassis. Does feel a little bit low, but that's the right location, so we'll go with that. Of course, what you can always do is move it yourself if you want to change the aesthetics. Okay, and next what we'll do are the actual weapons. Now, I'm just going to pick any old weapon. So let's say Class and Warner CF007 and Class and Warner CF007. And it's the same thing again, so we just select and link and drag and drop. Hardpoint weapon left wing, paste, 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 duplicate, unlink, relink, hardpoint weapon right wing, paste. Okay, so that's our armed and constructed Merlin minus the rear thruster, because those are broken, and I'll go over how to fix stuff like that in a later video. It's fairly straightforward, but it's quite a lengthy process. So this is pretty much like this Gladius over here, which was broken when we first loaded up the engine. So what we need to do is fix that, and that's where the character attach helper comes in. So if we just select this, I'm just going to unhide it there and just move it into the right layer. What we'll do is this. So in the character attach helper, I'm going to rename this to Merlin Parent. And then I'm going to parent this to the body. And I'm just going to parent it to Merlin body, because that's the root node of the mesh. And it always has the same name as the actual geometry. And then I'm going to 0 it down here by pasting in 0, 0, 0. And then I'm going to unlink it. And then what I'll do, I'll take all the attachments for the Merlin, and I will link all of these to the Merlin parent, and then I'll put the Merlin body on the Merlin parent, and then I shall disable selection of, if it lets me, it won't. And then what I tend to do is just disable selection of all the attachments. Usually you should be able to do it in one go. Today I can't for some reason, and then I'll allow selection of the parent geometry, so I can just select the parent at any time. And that's it. That'll be everything parented to the correct location now. So you're free to get started, go nuts, and create pretty ships. So what I'll do now is just quickly go over how to animate a ship, because obviously these ships have animation properties to them. So to animate the ship, we'll use the track view tool, and I'll just bring that in here, and I'm going to make a new track view, and I'll call it SEQ for sequence underscore Merlin. I'm going to disable the curve editor because I don't need it right now, and I'm going to add the parent to the sequence, and I'm going to add the Merlin body to the sequence as well. Okay, and then let's just say I take the Merlin parent and let's set the end time to 5 seconds, and I'm going to set a key at the beginning. And I'm going to set a key at the end, and let's just say it's hovering forward. You know, very, very, very advanced animation right there. Okay, so once we've got it animated forward, what we can do is the following. We go into the Merlin body, and then we can add a animation track. And then if we add a clip here, we'll see that the animations are open here. So then, for example, we can do landing gear, panels open, because for some reason while this guy's going forward, the landing gear is deploying, because why not? Unfortunately, because of the way we got it set up, things like attachments to the wings and the like won't work. That's because they're all parented to the Merlin parent. They're not actually parented to the body because they always snap to 0. So that's an unfortunate downside. But another thing you can do is if you want to add another animation track, you can have 2 animations playing at once. So say canopy open, and the canopy will open while the landing gear deploys, that kind of thing. It's pretty cool. And you can animate the different parts of it as well. So when it comes to the landing gear, like with the nozzle, a little bit of extra work is required to address that, and what I'll do, I'll go over that in the next video, because it all kind of comes under one banner, if you like. But this is enough to kind of, if you want to go in and animate a ship, this is enough to get started. Another thing you can do is, for example, particle effects. You can attach particle effects to the attach helper for the thrusters and the like, which is pretty cool. And I'll go into this in a lot more detail when we eventually come around to actually creating a cinematic sequence using ships. And yeah, it'll be pretty sweet. But that should be enough to allow you just to get started and start playing around for a bit. Alright, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you later.